Welcome to the Protecting Your Nest podcast. Today's episode is actually part 2 of a discussion I had with Tia Reid. Tia is the Director of Nutritional Services and for many years has had experiences in the field of customer service and sales. But most importantly, she is a certified low-carb, high-fat keto nutrition coach. And that's what we love about her the most. Our first episode focused on the many chronic medical conditions that she has overcome and what it was like to live with them. And it was really intriguing. So, as we were wrapping up our conversation talking about carb addiction, I thought it would be important to continue the conversation because she's had so many rich experiences I think you'll continue to learn from. So thank you, Tia, for being with us here today again.
I'm excited.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. We had a
All
really good
right.
conversation and
Hi,
we're just here
everyone.
spreading the gospel. That's right. Speak to
Yeah.
the crowd. That's right.
Yeah.
So one of the things we talked about, we know you're doing keto, we know you're doing low carb, but when I was researching you, I saw the term omni carnivore, and I'm not
Mhm.
sure my audience is fully aware what an omni carnivore is. So let's start our conversation today about defining what that is, so people would know
Okay.
your
I,
dietary
I
pattern.
would love to. This is the eating plan that healed my body. Of all, it was able to eliminate all these medications eating this way. So I basically eat meat, cheese, anything that comes from an animal. Never drink anything with carbohydrates. I might have water, Crystal Light. I use that sometimes if I want something different than water. When in doubt, I tell everyone to leave it out. I eat some veggies with fat, but the goal is close to zero non-vegetable carbohydrates as possible because there is carbohydrates in vegetables. So they're free, but you still gotta I still don't eat a whole lot of them. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't use any measuring or keeping track of macros. So, like you have said before, keep it simple. So I use
That's right.
total carbs, not calories. I don't subtract the net carbs or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is 2 meals a day, no snacks, and try to implement movement in the day, which is like, walking. I don't bust my butt or anything. I get out there and I walk 30 minutes, mind cleansing moment. I might listen to a podcast or something like that, or just some music, or I might just listen to the birds. But,
Mm-hmm.
meat healed my body. I feel like it healed my body. So no grains, no rice, no potatoes, eating sequentially, meaning sitting down with a fork and a knife, and don't put all the food on your plate. Take a little bit off the bowl, like family style, and put it on your plate a little bit at a time. And when you're full, you stop. So this also was really hard for me because I was a big breakfast eater, but now my breakfast might be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That might be my first meal in between noon and 12. So breakfast is not the most important meal of the day, I found
Mm-mm.
out.
Mm-hmm.
And I fat fortify, but I don't fat load. So that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean you just sit around and gnaw on fat all day long. You just, you put some on your meat, maybe a little pat of butter or maybe some cheese or some sour cream, and you'll know, your body knows, if you're having trouble with IBS or something, you're eating too
Mm-hmm.
much fat, so then you cut back on the
Mm-hmm.
fat. But that is what healed my body, and I do use for all of those diabetics out there, I do use the CGM. It is the best tool ever, even if you don't have diabetes, really, to
Yes.
see what foods affect your blood glucose. I'm wearing one now today, a Freestyle Libra. I've also used the Dexcom. Both amazing tools for anyone that's trying to reverse their diabetes. Oh, another
Agreed.
thing, Sugar
Yes.
Global teaches us this. Remove the toxic triangle of foods: sugar, grains, and unnatural oils.
Love it. And I am a big fan of that. I think again, there's, different opinions about
Right,
seed
right.
oils, but me personally, I would prefer to eat avocado oil, olive
Oh, me
oil,
too. Yeah, we even
coconut
make our own
oil.
mayonnaise. It's fun. It's
Man,
so
and you're
fun.
Yeah, you're connecting with the food. Grains are overrated.
Mhm.
So whether it's processed or not, excessive grains are overrated. And then, of course, sugar. CGMs are awesome. We struggle because, in a population that's, underserved, let's just say that,
Yes,
with limited resources. And I know you can have that in the city where I'm at or in the country where you're at. A lot of people are struggling. And, the criteria they have to get a Libre or a Dexcom approved, you got to be
it's
testing
crazy.
yourself, it's just a lot. Rather, they make you document things thoroughly. You have to be testing yourself a certain amount of times, and the benefits of continuous glucose monitors are so broad. I mean, it helps everybody. So I hope that one day we'll get better with that coverage issue. But for anybody who has access to a continuous glucose monitor, please, please, please consider that for sure. So, man, I think about that first conversation, that first episode, and we had so many medical conditions that we
Yeah.
touched on. I thought you made up half of them, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there.
When I say them, it doesn't feel real when I say them out loud.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like, is it really like one person, and so many people who suffer from metabolic syndrome, metabolic dysfunction, which was the etiology of most of those conditions, also have issues with obesity. And so when you had lost about 80 pounds, right?
Right, yeah, I've been able to keep it off, sustain it with this way of eating
80
for the first
pounds.
time for the first time,
So let's go backwards. And so part of what I tried to do in the first episode is to help people understand what it's like to be a diabetic, what it's like to have to use a CPAP machine, and all of those things, right? But
Mhm.
when you are not at your ideal weight and you have this obese label, um, there's a lot of negativity that can come with that. So go backwards a little bit and tell my audience what it was like for you when you were 80 pounds heavier. What was that like?
Well, body shaming is a tough subject for many people, including myself. And, I get emotional about it a lot of times because I find that I did it to myself quite a bit. I perceived myself as physically unattractive, not worthy, you know, and it started for me at a very young age. And it's weird because I wasn't a heavy child. I was really too skinny when I
Mm,
was a child. So I had knobby knees and buck teeth, and kids often bullied me about it and made remarks, and it was very hurtful, and definitely it affected my self-esteem. So once I became overweight, then I found myself doing the same kind of things to my very own self, and it makes you
wow.
very depressed. It's very depressing. It really is, and it's not fair. Um, it's very hard.
Wow. Doing it to yourself. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? I mean, the
Yeah, I mean,
idea that society puts these things in our head and we start to believe it ourselves.
yeah, you
And
do.
if
You
we,
do. And you just need support. I never really thought it. I looked at myself and I don't even didn't even realize how heavy I was getting until I looked at pictures, and I was like, "Oh, wow. I really was sick."
Mhm.
But
Yeah, sometimes
during
that's
that
what it
time,
takes.
yeah, yeah, and I had to get bigger clothes, and that's expensive. It was expensive going back and forth in your weight. So,
Wow, and we talked about, and I do want to touch on the cost of medicines in a moment, but um, we talked about the effect it has on your life when we talked about those medical conditions in the first episode. But now you're saying even just going to buy clothes, even, I'm sure you had the experience on an airplane or, going
oh,
into an office and the
yeah.
seats are not big enough. It's like all your whole life is impacted by this. And it's hard to put it. If we made a list of all the things that occur in your life in a negative perspective because you're either sick or not at your ideal body weight, it would be a long list.
Yeah,
And
and you didn't, I would be so hot. and at any function you'd be hot, even if it was in the gym at your
Wow.
kid's graduation, you'd be sitting there pouring down sweat. It and people would say, "Are you going through menopause?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not old enough for that." you know
Wow.
it's pretty rough, the
Okay.
shaming.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. I just think, I want to have these conversations so that the person who never thought about these things can hear it, and the person who's going through it knows that they're not alone, So I think there's
That is
benefit
so very
either way.
true. And
Man, so
you're not even happy in your own skin. You're not comfortable in your own skin. Mm,
yeah, that's not cool. So
no.
even if we lived in a world, right, where there's not a lot of people who are fat shaming themselves or getting fat shaming from outside themselves, right? But we
Right.
would still live in a world where people would suffer from like self-esteem issues, right? So,
Mhm.
and self-blame. So, you're a coach, right? So,
Mhm.
when you're faced with a client in front of you, how do you help people who may struggle um,
Well,
so that they're both accountable, to their goals
right.
while not self-blaming when they struggle because it's like a balancing act. I want to have my confidence, but I still got to make sure I'm not so confident that I'm not trying to work toward achieving my
Right.
goals, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Some
Well,
people get too confident and then they're not even trying anymore.
I love people. People are so amazing, but
Mhm.
you got to teach them, and I had to teach this to myself that first of all, you don't need anyone to understand what you're doing or what you're going through. You have to live your own life and be comfortable in your own skin. So, I want to show others how they can see things as their own choice and that they can change
Mm.
with different thinking. Um, to help others have awareness, to pay attention to what they're eating, to notice when snacking becomes mindless or habitual. It can happen so easily and so quickly. Habits are misguided attempts to feel more comfortable in your own skin, I was taught. And that really
Mhm.
resonated with me because when you're feeling restless and you have some kind of behavior that instantly soothes and that restless habit that you've taken a hold of.
Mhm.
And I had a mentor, Tracy McBeath. I don't know if you've heard of her or not, but she is just totally amazing. She wrote the book, and I have it in front of me. You Have Today, with
Mm.
100 Insights. I suggest that for anyone struggling with this. She teaches us that urges are just thoughts or feelings
Mm.
that encourages you to act on your habit. So
Mm.
the stronger and more frequent the urge comes, the harder it is to do anything other than give in to it. So the basis of all habits are just actually your thoughts. And
Mm.
thoughts are just like clouds in the sky. So we don't have to hold on to them and grab onto them. We can let them pass by, right? Thoughts can yeah, they can. Thoughts can't make you eat that pizza or that cake. So all thoughts are optional, and that's what I want everyone to understand. Your thoughts are all optional. All your thoughts and urges don't go on forever either. they
Mm.
they feel like they're going to. uh you think they're going to, but they don't. They only last as long as you think them. So practicing the good things you have, the good things in yourself, and show each person, including yourself, that there's plenty to love about yourself right now. Don't wait any more minutes. Who cares about the past? You should only focus on the present. You can't change the past. You can only learn from it. If you continue to do what you're doing right now, you're always going to get what you've always got. So I like to help people with awareness to set the goals. Maybe send me pictures of their meals and we can talk about
Mhm.
them and what they could do better, and to celebrate the non victories. Who gives a crap about the scale? It's how you feel, how your clothes are fitting. And you just got to remember that thoughts equals feelings equals behavior equals action. And don't fear change. Expect it to be uncomfortable and power through. That's what I say.
Tia, you are a
I'm
coach.
I'm just I'm so passionate about it now, and,
Oh my God.
I have to tell myself these things. I have to look in the mirror and tell myself these things too.
Affirmations are a game changer, and just hearing you articulate your thoughts on this topic is exactly what people need to hear. And that's why, we all need coaching. So shout out to all the coaches who are helping people in their relationships, in their professions, in their child rearing, and just in them trying to be the person they've always wanted to be. So thank you for coaching us.
You're
You
welcome.
taking advantage of your coaching skills, and
Yeah.
and I know you got some coaching from Dr. Robert Cyrus,
Oh
and
my
that's
gosh, yes.
the carb addiction doctor, right? With some great YouTube videos. So for those who are not as familiar with him, definitely check out Dr. Robert Cyrus's YouTube channel. He's awesome, and he keeps it real. He speaks.
He does.
He's very blunt, in your face,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. And he speaks the truth, and he's one of those doctors who thinks outside the box. So, but when it comes to carb addiction, um, why do we? Why is it so important that people recognize, rather or not, they have a carb addiction as they take their journey? I know that it's got to be harder for those folks compared to those who are not. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I just kind of put it back onto my journey because for me, knowing that I had an addiction gave me hope. And it took the shame away from it, and I knew it wasn't my fault then. So I had a compulsive, uncontrolled consumption of highly how do you say that, palatable foods, despite adverse consequences. I knew,
Mm,
and once knowing that I, in fact, had an addiction, I could be free. So you could be free too, listeners. You can be free. You can make a plan and know that something was not wrong with you. There's so many out there like me that are battling addictions like this. And the only way to correct it is with proper nutrition, with eating real whole foods, changing your behavior, and getting
mm-hmm,
loads of support, especially in the first month. I mean, I had to figure out what trigger foods were for me and
mm-hmm,
eliminate them. So it's a process of elimination. You have to, take good notes, educate yourself, and get the tools you need to succeed. I like to tell everyone to take one day at a time, one meal at a time. So you
mm-hmm,
got to plan, prepare, and protect yourself. You have to plan by removing all the problem foods from your home. Just give them to a shelter if you need. I mean,
mm-hmm,
there's people out there that might need it. Prepare your meals in advance when you're not hungry is important when you prepare them. So don't do them while you're hungry, and protect yourself from yourself. That's what Dr. Silas
mm-hmm,
taught me. Protect yourself from yourself. Grocery shop when you're not hungry. Bring your own items to family functions and parties. And when you're dining out, hey, take a look at the menu ahead of time.
mm-hmm,
Make your recovery your number one thing. So protect yourself, avoid situations that may be too hard for you. Don't believe the lies that your habitual mind's going to tell you, because you know it's going to happen. Things like, I can't do this, one bite won't hurt you,
right.
oh, I'll just start tomorrow. Well, that tomorrow never comes. So
That's
one
right.
piece is not okay for some of us. But like I said before, like I think we were talking, would you give an alcoholic a little bit of alcohol, or a drug addict a little bit of heroin?
That's
No.
right.
So
No.
protect yourself. That's what
Well,
I
speaking,
say.
yeah, let's speak. Let's go there too. I like that you brought that up because were there other signs in your life that you had addictive tendencies? Like, was there any issues with smoking or anything else in the past?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I really do feel like sugar is the gateway drug. And
Mm,
we're, like I said before, I think we're interested in, or we're introduced to it when we're really small. So as we eat more of that, we need more to keep the fix going, and it leads to other things. I did smoke early in life around the age of the small age of 14. And
Mm,
I thought it was cool. And, that led into drinking into high school. I shouldn't have been drinking and then, but all these things lead into other things. So I no longer smoke. I quit after going septic. When I went off the vent, I never looked
oh,
back. That was a tough way to learn. But, and then I used alcohol to get affected many times when I was young. And then
mm,
after that, it became sugar, sugar and food. It made you feel good. It gave you the same dopamine high, and
hmm.
eventually you need more and you need more to get affected. It's just like a just keeps going.
Yeah, I really want to kind of bring that up intentionally because, you know, we like Dr. Robert Cyrus, but we also like Dr. Joan Iflin,
Yeah, she's
of the
amazing. Yeah,
amazing, the Reset community
the art.
provides just tons of support. I did a podcast recording with her in the past, but we also did a YouTube video where she walked through the diagnostic criteria for
Yeah.
processed food addiction, right? So for those who want to check that out, just type in Dr. Tony Hampton, Dr. Joan Ifland, that's Ifland, and there's 11 criteria, but it's really the same criteria used for substances you're addicted
Yeah.
to.
It's
So it's
the
the same thing.
DSM-5.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
her arc is amazing. I've been a member of that community for support, and the people
Nice.
in there are so amazing, and you can reach out to them any time of day. I mean, you get assigned to a
It's
group of ladies and you become really good friends.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So thank you for please, guys, if you're struggling and you have tried this before, some people will walk in a clinic. I'll give them a sheet, my version of page 4, like Dr. Eric Westman. I have 2 pages, double-sided,
Mhm.
and 1 page double-sided. And I'll say eat this, avoid that, and they'll come back and have success. Then you have other people who struggle. And for those who
Mhm.
struggle and you meet the criteria, you should seek those resources because they can be a game changer. And there's nothing
Absolutely.
wrong with that. Like, no, if you're a doctor and you struggle through medical school, right? And then you meet the guy who went to Yale and had straight A's. The patients don't know. You just
Yeah.
gotta just be a
Yeah.
good doctor. So people, you're gonna struggle, and it doesn't matter. Just get to the goal. Your goal
Yeah.
is to achieve metabolic health, and however you get that, with or without support, it doesn't matter. So one of the things that sometimes happens with people who adopt a low carb or keto diet or carnivore is that their hunger fades away. So a lot of times my patients will end up fasting. So have you incorporated intermittent fasting into your journey as well? Did that occur naturally, unnaturally? Are you doing it at all?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned intermittent fasting. I didn't do it in the beginning because my focus was to learn how to eat real food and eliminate
Mm-hmm.
the processed foods, sugar and flour, and that was a challenge in itself. So once I eliminated that and lost some of my weight, then I just automatically started to eat later and later in the day, like I wasn't as hungry. When you become fat adapted, um you're just not as hungry. So then I did start to intermittent fast. Like I did the 16/8. Anyone should be able to do a 16/8, right? You sleep
Mm-hmm.
half of it. You're sleeping
Right.
half the time. So I kind of like the term that Amy Berger uses, time restricted eating, more than
Yeah.
the intermittent fasting, because all you're doing is restricting the time of the day you eat, or the amount of time you
Mm-hmm.
will ingest food. So you're abstaining from food typically results in lowering your blood sugar, right? So if you want to become insulin sensitive, time restrictive eating or intermittent fasting is a game changer. And you can start by just eliminating snacks and mindless eating, and
Mm-hmm.
that'll get you going. And then
Okay.
you're like amazed at wow, I was eating that and I didn't wasn't even hungry. Why am I doing that? why was I just bored? So
That's right.
then you replace it with something else by getting up and doing something, maybe taking a walk, calling your kids, putting a puzzle together, calling a friend. And the next thing you know, that that thought's passed about wanting to eat, and it's now an hour later. So each day you go an hour later, and the next thing you know, it's noon and you're eating your first meal and you are intermittent fasting,
Just
you
that
know?
simple. Yep.
Yeah, keep it
It's
simple.
awesome. And
Yeah.
it's really cool because you allowed your body to adapt. And I think that's the biggest message when you're joining a community. And the keto community, the low carb community, the carnivore community is a form of support. But when you're joining those communities, there's no rules of engagement. You don't have to do anything. You do what's best for you. If you find you enjoy eating early in the day and that works for you and you're sticking with your kind of low carb guidelines, have at it.
Yeah.
I like not having to eat in the morning. I just personally like not having to be concerned about eating.
It
It's
frees up
just
your
nice.
day.
It does. I have a lot of meetings early. I get to
Yeah.
work early. I have early meetings and I'm focused on the meetings. And then my mental clarity is really good at that time when I'm fasting because ketone fuel is some of the best fuel on the planet. So I wanted to circle back a little bit because in the first episode we touched on medication a little bit, and I want to ask you a little bit more about that. I don't think people fully understand. I kind of joked with you about the fact that you made up half your diagnoses, right?
Yeah.
But because it's just too much, right?
Yeah, it is a
Sepsis and
lot.
all this stuff you went through, adrenal
Yeah.
masses and just craziness. Now, but I just want to reflect a little bit back on, you may not remember how much you paid overall for medicines and you did have insurance, you said. But
Yeah.
when you think about the medicines, right? What do you recall about the burden, rather it's the insulin pump or the medicines you took by mouth or just what types of medicines were you taking? Just give me a sense of that because I actually after let's look into that a little bit because I think people need to understand
I'm
when
trying
you
to
make
think.
this change, it is a ton of uh goodness that comes out of this.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Now you
so
can afford healthier food choices, too. When you're not taking the medicine, you can spend that on more fresh vegetables and meat. I know a lot of people have concerns that it's hard to eat whole foods, but I find that actually it's not. If you're not eating the processed foods, you're not needing all those medications. But I was lucky enough to have insurance through all this, but I did have an A at HSA. Is that what you call it? But every single penny
some
of
type
that
of
went to my cost of
oh,
my medication. So I never could
right.
save very much because it was always being used on medications. And I wish I had kept a log of the cost of them all, but it's thousands of dollars a year, like half, it was half of my salary basically for years and years was going to
Yeah.
medications and doctor's appointments.
Yeah. I well go ahead.
I don't know how people do it. On low income, I don't know how they can afford it. It's very scary. It's very sad.
It's
Um,
it's very sad. I I was listening to something on the radio on the way home as we prepared to talk, and it was talking about the number of people who may have died because we didn't have universal health care, as an example, not
yeah.
promoting, and it was like 300 and something thousand people from COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, just
Wow.
based on I don't know how they calculate this stuff, but so that's an example. And I don't even think we can negotiate drug prices in this country right now. Like
No,
it's not like it's
they're
crazy. So
out of
it's really
control.
it's lobbyists and special interests, right? So, but one of the
Mhm.
things I wanted to because I know when I did research on you a little bit, I saw that you mentioned you're on an insulin pump, and I know we use drugs so the insulin itself can cost 100. I mean, if it's retail, now of course with insurance they'll cover a lot of this stuff, but
Yeah.
you can spend $160 to $200 just on a vial of insulin. You can spend
Oh yeah, just on
um,
one.
just on one. And let's
Yeah.
not talk about the cost of an insulin pump
Hmm.
and the medicine that you need for that. And, and most people who have blood pressure, they're on medicines like metoprolol. You got to protect your kidneys with things like lisinopril.
Right.
If your triglycerides were high, you got to take things like Tricor, and Tricor is, like 100 and
Yeah.
$250, right?
I was
So
on all three of those.
that's insane, right?
Yeah.
Like, and just thinking of you being on 20 medicines right now. Are you taking any now? Do you take
No,
any?
no, no,
None.
no, it's crazy.
Nothing.
Low carb USA in January in Boca was my last metformin. So, that was that
That's
and allopurinol was the last ones to get off of. Yeah. It was a long process. It wasn't immediate, but you definitely need to have a doctor's care for any of it because eating this way makes I mean, he eliminated half of my medications in the beginning if I
yeah.
was going
I
to
I
stick
would
on it, you know?
I can believe that. A
Cut
lot
it
of times I've seen
insulin got
that.
cut in half right away.
Yeah. If you follow, and again, for those who are watching or listening, Adele Heights, when she
Oh,
helped to put together, I know just I'm going to miss
yeah.
her so much, but when she put together the therapeutic guidelines for carb restriction, you can literally print that from the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners site or Low Carb USA. Shout out to your Low Carb USA.
Yeah, yeah, yay!
You got your shirt on, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, shout out to them.
representing.
Yeah, perfect timing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But they have those guidelines. I would print those guidelines and put it in front of your clinician because in the guidelines it'll say if you're going to do carb restriction and you're on insulin, you need to consider reducing the doses substantially. So for those patients
Absolutely.
who are really going to do it, you need to because otherwise you'll be hypoglycemic, and that's a problem too. So you have to really work with a clinician who understands that and can work with you as you work to
That's
do
really
that. So
important, and it's sometimes
yeah,
hard to find someone that will go with a low carb doc. In this area, it is where I live. But on those
yeah,
websites, you can find low carb doctors as
that's
well,
right. You can search them. That's right. They have
and
a physician search, practitioner search
telemedicine.
feature.
Telemedicine's very popular. That's how I did my doctoring with Dr. Siwas. We
That's
telemedicine.
right. My
Hmm.
Dr. Jay Wrigley, who was a previous guest, recently,
Uh-huh.
he's in the Caribbean and he's doing telemedicine, and of
That's
course, he's a
great.
metabolic.
That is
He's
amazing.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So I was
Yeah,
so
I
jealous.
love
So,
it. I love it.
so that's right. And I think another thing I want to touch on is, we talked a little bit about, fruit was like nature's candy,
Oh, yeah.
things like that. I actually have a handout because in a short visit with my patients, I have to give them quick energy. So on Diet Doctor website, I have it's the same handout on my link tree. So Dr. Tony Hampton link tree. You can get my patient handout there for those who are checking this episode out. But one of the things I try to tell patients is, be careful of certain things. The example that comes to mind right now is nuts, right? So if I'm,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, like
They're trigger food for me.
ooh,
How
who
can you
can
eat
walk
just
by?
20?
You just,
You
you
don't count
can't.
them out?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost torture to do that because you
yeah,
never like get enough. And although it's like, and I know certain people like Dr. Eric Westman kind of keeps that on hold until, and you have to look at your own self and say, can
yeah.
I handle that? So when it comes to like things like fruit, when it comes to the quality of the meat, do you have some rules of engagement in terms of what you tell people who are trying to make lifestyle changes?
Well, of course, everybody's situation is different. So, I mean, if they're a diabetic, I tell them to stay away from fruit. Like I haven't
Hmm.
had fruit. I shouldn't lie. I'm not lying, but I've had some berries. I've had some blueberries and some blackberries, but that's about it within 4 years because since I do wear a CGM, I can see that those raise my blood sugar levels, and it makes me want them more. They're like a trigger. It
Mm-hmm.
makes me, it'll spike my sugar for long periods of time. So if you are diabetic, when I'm coaching, I tell you to stay away from the fruit. But
Yeah.
other people can have it, like my husband, he can have it. He's not diabetic, and he just monitors it, just a
Right.
little bit.
That-
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
to eat some protein with it is always
That's
good
right.
too,
That's right.
to
I
make a
like
slower
that.
impact on your sugars. But I don't
That's
feel it's
fair.
necessary to go out and buy a whole bunch of expensive organic meat, or
Mm-mm.
Trader Joe's. You have to go to Trader Joe's for everything. We just go to Walmart. We buy our food at Walmart because that's what we have.
My
But
wife is a my wife's a Walmart pharmacist, so she'll be happy to hear
yeah,
that.
I mean, they have really good cuts of meat, and
Yeah.
you can look for the fattier cuts of meat if you want, and um, you can totally do that. You don't have to, you know, buy the most expensive stuff.
Yeah. And I
And I
think
like
that's
your list.
again.
I like your list. I looked at it.
Oh, you checked it out?
Yeah,
Fine. Yeah.
yeah.
And I tell people and is listen, it's more important that you are reducing carbs than it is that you focus on grass-fed, organic,
Right.
pasture-raised. Those things are nice and it may be beneficial, and there's a lot of controversy around that. I think that it's probably beneficial, but to what extent is beneficial pales in comparison to the benefit of just carb restriction.
Right.
It's
And
like that's the
I think
bottom
if
line.
people just don't eat processed foods, just eat whole foods, nothing from a
Man,
box. Make
yes.
it simple. Use fats to cook with, such as bacon grease. We have a bacon grease thing on our stove like my grandma used to have, and real butter. I mean, we can eat real butter, tasty butter now. It gives you all the fuel you need to get through the day, and keep it simple. Don't count calories, just count carbs, not net carbs. Just
That's
count the
right.
carbs on the label. So I
I
think
like
keeping it
that.
simple is the best.
I'm just having a visual because I remember seeing the can on the counter, with the grease, and
Yeah,
people would assume that's got to kill you, and it's actually the opposite. It's probably the
yeah, and it
the
keeps you
best
full. And
oil.
yeah, it's
That's right.
tasty. Brad
And
even
stuff
put
tastes
some.
really good.
Yeah, you can drizzle it on your vegetables.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
People who are not familiar with this message think we're nuts, but if you want, don't forget she was on 20 medicines,
Yeah, and I'm
insulin
not
pump,
anymore. Yeah.
CPAP, and all of that stuff was going on, and she's taking zero medicines. Tia, that's amazing. Nobody would believe it. And I just
I
want
just
more
can't
people.
believe it.
If we just added up the cost of all those medicines, CPAP, insulin pumps,
Oh,
the cost of keeping you alive was just off the charts. I
yeah,
mean, I couldn't
I could have
imagine.
paid for all my kids' college degree,
Yes,
all
yes.
three of them.
And if people think that they're, oh, well, I have insurance. Well, if you think you're not paying for it, don't get it twisted. The insurance
Yeah.
companies are for profit, so they will incorporate the cost of all that into your premium. So don't think you're not paying for it. You're always paying for it,
Yeah, and
always. So
another thing is, if you do have to have a procedure done, it's good to actually shop different facilities.
right, good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
I
That's
don't know
right.
why, but just an MRI at one place might be thousands more than another, or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Mm.
Well, let's do something we didn't do in the last episode since we've mentioned a couple of resources. I want you to share, and you can start with the resource on your shirt.
Oh, low
um,
carb
let's
USA. Yeah.
Low Carb USA, wonderful. I think they changed the conference though to a different name, Metabolic Health Symposium, I
Yeah.
think. So
Yeah.
they changed the name, which I appreciate because they're recognizing that metabolic health is the key. In other words, some people don't tolerate meat as much as we love meat, right? And
Right.
so if you have to eat more plant based, but you're eating, as Tia just said, real food, right?
Mhm.
not the Impossible Burger or the
No.
Beyond,
Yeah.
yeah, not that. But eat and if you're a vegetarian and you eat an Impossible Burger rarely, that's probably okay. But if that's your go-to and you call it health food, that's probably not a good idea. So let's do two things. One is resources like Low Carb USA that you would recommend for the average person, and how did you get so smart? So what
Oh,
resource did you use? Because you're real smart. I like
oh,
talking to you.
well, I don't know about that, but um, I actually, Dr. Sai was suggested that I join the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, and I
Yes.
followed the nutrition network path because he thought that I could possibly help others by being a coach. So um, I followed the nutrition network path through, and I talked to Doug Reynolds, and he showed me the way to get there. Totally amazing individual. Um, anyway, this, if nobody knows what the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners represent, they represent all researchers and practitioners working to improve metabolic health around the world through education, training, and support of evidence-based nutritional approaches, including carbohydrate restriction as a valid therapeutic option for intervention. So it's such a great community of like-minded people. Like Dr. Tony said before, the clinical guidelines are right there. You can print them off and give them to your doctor or your dietitian. Um, but there's so much networking to do, and Nutrition Network platform is just the most excellent learning education platform founded by the Noakes Foundation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it teaches the latest and most up to date science and research in the field of low carb nutrition, and the courses are fun. You can do them on your
Mm-hmm.
own time. They're all pre recorded, and then you answer questions afterwards. But I was very fortunate to be part of their pilot group of their first 12 coaching practitioners. And wow,
Nice.
what an experience. I'm friends still with all those people. We really connected, and they're from all over the world. It's a great membership platform for networking. You can ask questions, you can post questions and get information back from the doctors. Totally amazing.
Wow.
Another is Adapt Your Life Academy with Dr. Westman, Amy Berger, and now Dr. Vera Timon. Is that how you say her name? Timon? I'm not for
I
sure.
think so. I
I,
think so.
but
Yeah.
they have courses, and they have a Keto Made Simple Masterclass,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yes.
amazing. And I actually have that food list on my refrigerator in case any of the kids want to like think, what can mom eat? It's right there. Um, the Stall Slayer course I just finished with Amy Berger is totally amazing, and she talks a lot about the thyroid. And now they've got sugar and food addiction courses, and they are simple classes, and they actually have a support group that you can stay in, and it's totally amazing.
Nice.
And then the last one I wanted to talk about was Bitten's Addiction and their
Mm.
Facebook support called Sugar Bomb in Your Brain, which is totally amazing. Anyone can go on their Facebook group and be a part of it. And also, Sugar Global RX is a lot like the ARC, and you can join these groups and they will help you through your addiction with lifelong treatment. Um, Bitten's Addiction for Holistic Medicine for Addiction is going to, and I'm in the middle of it right now, but it'll help me with treatment plans for people such as biochemical repair, detoxification, sleep repair, breathing, stress management, and physical activity. The
Mhm.
neuroscience, networking, recovery plans. Uh, there's like support groups like 12 steps and other relapse prevention because it is lifelong maintenance. And then I one other thing I wanted to put out there besides the
Wow.
ARC, which we already talked about, because
That's
that's an
right.
amazing organization, is a low carb healing hub and support group. Tracy McBeath, the book I told you about, You Have Today,
Mhm.
100
Mhm.
Insights. She has a new support group called Refresh, Renew, and Reboot that helps you with your thinking. with your stinking thinking so that you can become stronger in your mind. And then, of course, the Protect Your Nest YouTube channel.
Ah, you're funny.
Yeah.
That's right. So we
There's
can
so
have
many
these
more. There's so
conversations.
many more.
That's right.
I could
There's
go
so
on and
many.
on.
That's right. Well, thank you for that. And I did, speaking of Protect Your Nest, I did get a chance to hang out with Pam Devine,
Yes, that was a
co-founder of Low Carb USA, right?
great
And
episode.
and she also walked through the societies. So we did 2 episodes with her. So we did a podcast, but we also did a episode walking through the Low Carb USA site and the
Thank you.
Society of Meta. So if you search my name, her name, website tours for those 2 sites, that'll kind of give an overview. And I really didn't expect this, such a thorough amount of feedback. So I really appreciate that. I love Dr. Eric Westman. I'm not as familiar with the better addiction, which is wonderful. And the last one you suggested. So I'm really happy that we're kind of growing and learning this stuff together. And people need resources. That's why I wanted to ask you as a coach, what are the resources that people need to be successful? Because I know there's not many people who don't want to be successful, if any. We just need to figure out how to get there.
Right.
And we need people to help us along our
And
way. So,
it takes a village. It takes a village, and it takes a good support, and a multidisciplinary team is key
mhm,
for your, you need the doctor, you need the health coach, you
that's
need
right.
everybody, you need the
That's
support.
right. 100%. Now, your passion is evident, and I can make assumptions about why you're so passionate. So, talk a little bit about why you're so passionate about helping people as they attempt to heal.
I just I just want to connect with people and help people back to metabolic health, because I didn't have, in my small area, I didn't really have anyone that understood this or
Hmm.
offered this. So I didn't have a choice really. Every time I went to the doctor, it was another pill. So understanding that long term behavior change is needed. And then, lots of people, lots of doctors aren't coaches. So, like I said before, I think, I feel it's really important to have a multidisciplinary team, which includes a health coach. And a coach is going to be your best support. They're going to be your personal cheerleader, motivator, and
Hmm.
advocate. Someone you can count on to listen to your struggles, and it's a non-judgment zone. Uh, a coach is someone to help you set your goals, and, like you'd said before, accountability. Same as a support group, you have your accountability there. So celebrate your victories with, give you honest feedback, and inspire you and help you with long-term behavior change. Because if you do have the addiction, it is for life, and you need support for life. So
Yeah, no doubt about
I
it.
just am very passionate to help others, because I didn't have a lot of help um, until I
Hmm.
educated myself and was able to find everything. And Low Carb USA is one of the very first organizations that helped me on this path. And I can't be thankful enough to Doug and Pam and for everyone in the Low Carb USA community for helping. Everyone's like a family. They're like a big family.
Yeah, they really are, and I feel the same way. So I kind of think about, my goal, which is why I kind of like to call myself metabolic health doc, right? But my goal
Yeah.
is to, improve the metabolic health in as many people as possible. So when you think about do you have a true north? Do you have like this ideal state we will be at in the future, or somewhere you would like to see us all end up down the road? Anything that comes to mind?
I just want metabolic health for all. That's all I can say. I just want everybody to know that they don't have to take another pill. They can fix it with proper nutrition, and that
Yeah.
there is doctors, there's amazing doctors out there like yourself that are there to help and guide you and point you in the right direction,
That's awesome. So we don't have to take 20 pills, is what you're saying.
No, we don't. We don't. But it takes work. It takes work, and it's not
Yeah,
easy. And you just got to
that's
know
right.
it. that you got to want it, you
That's
know?
cool. All right. So uh, before we wrap up, I'll ask you the last question, which is how you plan to protect your nest over the next year. I know you've done a ton already, and we're
Right
trying to
now,
decide. Yeah, what's your focus over the next year? Anything different, new, or just a continuation of what you've been doing?
I'm just continue right now. I'm in the holistic medicine for addiction course, and I'm trying to learn how all about treatment plans. So
Yeah,
I'm hoping to educate myself so I can help others more in that space with food
cool.
addiction.
It's such a because I think about the nest, right? I think about it's how you think, right? Some
Yeah.
people you can say the T is also for trauma, so it's going to impact that. It's definitely going to, when you get to the rope and you talk about the E for your emotions and your life experiences, it may be a life experience that led to those drugs that you're using, and certainly it affects your emotions.
Oh yeah.
I think Dr. Robert Cyrus talks about every time you snack is an emotional experience, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yes,
That's
yes.
something.
So that is crazy, but it's true.
It is
I don't care
true.
if it's pork skins that you should be eating
Yeah.
or the Doritos. It's an
I
emotional experience. It's a
I put
snack.
don't he says don't do drive-bys. Don't do drive-bys. I put tally marks one time on how many times I opened that fridge every time I walked in. It was ridiculous. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm
I
just
know
looking in there.
that is crazy. All
Yeah.
right. Well, excellent. Well, let's wrap up with just making sure what are the best resources for people to find you and the work you're doing.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. People have messaged me there in both places. I'm on the low carb lifestyle healing hub. You can find my bio there under the find a coach. You can
Hmm.
find me on Nutrition Network under the practitioners there, and on the SMHP website. If you search for me, I'm my information is there as well.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna make sure to have as many links as I can. Sharing all the things you're doing, and I definitely appreciate you, and particularly because you spent extra time with me. So we spent basically a couple of hours together, and we have 2 episodes as a result. And I just hope somebody listening will benefit from hearing your inspiring
Me
story. So
too.
thank you so much. I'm so
Thank you.
happy
Thank you.
we
Me too.
talked. Yes.
I'm
Thank you
excited.
so
I'm not
much.
so honored to meet you. So finally,
Thank you. Yes, well, we're buddies for life. We're
yeah,
attached by the hip, so get used to
great.
seeing me, okay?
All right. Thank you so
All
much.
right. No
Bye,
problem. So
everyone.
thanks again. Yes, no doubt. So all right, guys, as we wrap up this episode, and enjoy and reflect on Tia's healing story, an amazing story of healing. And it all started with a chance conversation that led to meeting the wonderful Dr. Robert Cyrus. And then here we go on our keto journey. And it's amazing
It's amazing,
because
isn't it?
it's amazing because it gives us the tool to reverse what many people, Tia, have said were chronic medical conditions with no cure. And so
Hmm.
now we have recognized that that's not really true. And we see the amazing healing benefits. I see it in my clinic. You saw it personally, and I see it each and every day. And it breaks my heart. I think it breaks both of our hearts that there are people who will never hear this message. And that's why we're yelling and screaming and trying to reach as many people as possible. Thankfully, thankfully,
Yes.
thankfully, we have more clinicians like myself, like you, who are taking advantage of the resources you've given us, like the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, the Nutrition Network, and even we didn't mention the the Metabolic Multiplier has great information
Yes.
online. The
Yes.
Diet Doctor has free
Oh,
CME, free
absolutely.
CME.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that, and I'm just happy that we had a chance to spread this message. And Dr. Eric Westman often says at the end of his videos, this is a grassroots effort
Yes.
and we all must play a role. So share this episode and the previous episode as a resource for those who need to hear this message, because nobody will believe that Tia really got off of 20 medicines and had all of these medical conditions, but she
Yeah.
did. And we
It's
need to let
crazy.
people know that if she can do it, they can do it. So with your
Yes.
help, there will be more opportunities for people to heal and more importantly, more time to add value to the world we all share. So again, thanks again, Tia, for being here.
Oh,
And for those who are here with us listening, I only ask as we conclude that you continue to be safe, be well, and continue to protect your nest. Thanks again, Tia. Take care.
thank you.